Hello, and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom with your hosts, Heather and Rachel.
Together, we're here to talk about all things self-care, from fitness to mindfulness and everything in between.
Whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, or practices like tapping and meditation, we're here to help you discover new ways to care for yourself.
We'll also share tips on positive self-talk, finding time for self-care, and creating routines that stick.
We're here to provide you with plenty of tips, tricks, and unsolicited life advice.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Join our community, and together we can explore the path to wellness.
Hello and welcome. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the power of forgiveness, healing, and setting boundaries. And so this is based off a blog that Rachel wrote, and it's on 5 Minutes for Me on her website, and we'll be linking that in the show notes. But it's a really good topic because when we look at forgiveness, right, we sometimes have a little bit of
we get stuck.
We get a wall up, and then we don't want to forgive and everything like that. But Rachel's going to help us understand how it really benefits us as human beings and how setting those healthy boundaries for that whole process of forgiveness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll do some questions and answers, and hopefully we can get you on that brain path of forgiveness, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is forgiveness and why is it so important?
Okay, so forgiveness too, and I want to really point this out. Forgiveness is for the forgiver, right? So the benefits that we're talking about are for you, the forgiver.
Mm-hmm.
And forgiveness is super important because you really, it's for you to be able to move forward. When we stay angry and when we don't forgive or we refuse to forgive, we're stuck in the past. We're holding on to what someone did. You know, it could be 5 minutes ago, it could be 10 years ago, but it leaves you stuck in the past and it keeps you stuck and it keeps you from moving forward.
Right.
And it also then keeps you from seeing what's actually there, what's happening now, and maybe how, someone has changed.
Mm-hmm.
So the importance of forgiveness is, number one, you want to let go of anger because holding on to all of those emotions is just not healthy. You're going to hold on to stress. You're going to hold on to anger, resentment, and you're looking for retribution. And sometimes we're looking for retribution for something small, and we want someone to keep paying for that for years. And then what happens is we're hurting ourselves. So like we're keeping those emotions trapped within us. We're increasing our stress. Like we're increasing like our negative emotions. And in order for us to heal, we need to be able to forgive someone for our own benefit and move past it so that we can move past it and we can grow.
Right. And so it's like emotional freedom, right?
Absolutely. Yes. It frees you emotionally from that tie to the past and to that like possibly one act that someone else did. Now, there are times where people continue to kind of do the things that, harm us and hurt us. And we're going to get into that, what to do in that situation as we go through this. So,
okay. How does forgiveness differ from condoning harmful behavior?
Okay, so I mean, whenever there's behaviors that we don't like or that could be harmful to us, or it's something that we just are personally not able to deal with. So you can forgive someone because necessarily, like certain behaviors, maybe they didn't know that this behavior was something that bothered you.
Right.
Or, and that's fine. So you let someone know, of course, first, right? This is something that's bothering me. You can forgive them for their act. You make them aware of it. You can forgive them for that. But when you condone those sorts of behaviors, you let them slide. So it's almost like you're allowing if you allow that behavior to continue and you accept that without, I guess, putting up a boundary or setting some sort of consequence for it, or you just kind of keep letting it slide. And that's the difference. You can forgive someone and not condone their behavior. You can say, okay, this is what happened. I didn't like it. It didn't work because of XYZ. Moving forward, we need to do this.
Mhm.
And then you can let it go. And now different things are going to stem from whether someone keeps trying to push that behavior
Mhm.
on you. And that's going to require you to make some sort of a change in your relationship
Right.
with that person.
Right.
And a great example too is like, your kids. There are certain they will test your boundaries. And if you don't have if you don't have your own kids, if you ever babysat or have had to like teach or spend time around kids, they will literally push to see what your boundaries are.
Mhm.
And the more you let them get away with, the more they will push to see what they can get away with.
Right.
Same thing works with, same thing with other adults. You're either
Mhm.
going to say, okay, I'm accepting this behavior and I'm going to allow you to treat me this way,
Yeah.
or you're not. And you can forgive someone their behavior, but not accept it. And there's different ways again to go about that in dealing with that relationship. But
Yeah,
that's how those are basically different.
it's that saying, what you allow will continue, right? So what you're allowing,
Exactly.
the
Yeah. It's like
and the other.
we teach others
Mhm.
how we will accept to be treated.
Yes, yes, exactly. And yeah, so that's really like a great point. When you don't give the people the information of what's not okay, they continue to
Hmm.
think it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Um, so what are some personal benefits of forgiveness?
All right. So we all know if you're constantly aggravated, it's going to lead to stress.
Hmm.
Stress built up over long periods of times will basically wreak havoc on your body. It
Hmm.
can cause high blood pressure. It can cause all kinds of different things to happen to your body. It's definitely just going to be a strain on your health. So, when you're able to let go and to forgive and to get past all of those emotions, acknowledge them, process them, let it go, it's a much healthier for you. It's a good, it's great for stress relief. It's great for like your physical and mental well being because when you're constantly thinking about that anger or that thing that upset you or whatever and it's running through your mind like that, it keeps you pulled away from all the other great things that are happening in your life, right? So now you're missing out on all the good stuff because you're just so honed in on being angry or what that bad thing that happened was. So
Hmm.
then again, like you're losing out by being angry. You're missing out on a lot of the good stuff that life has to offer.
And I would also think that in the forgiveness process, it
Hmm.
helps you without being triggered
Hmm.
if something else like that happens.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. So what happens is when we hold on to stuff like that or
Right.
we bury it down, we don't acknowledge it, we don't process it, we bury it down. Now, every time something similar happens to us, like our
Hmm.
brain remembers this, even if we don't consciously get it and see that.
Right.
So something similar happens and it could be the smallest little thing and you get triggered and you get like irrationally upset, lash out,
Right.
and you're acting in a way that you wouldn't condone from other people because you just got triggered by something that you small that you couldn't forgive. Or
Right.
sometimes they are bigger things, don't get me wrong. I don't want to, judge anyone else's
Yeah.
issues, but it really can sneak up on you.
Yes. Yes. And you're just like, why did I react that way?
I've done that so many times. It happens in traffic a lot. I'm like, I will get so mad sometimes and I'm like, ooh, okay. I need to figure out where that came from
Hmm.
because stuff like this happens all the time. And while it's annoying, like
Hmm.
it doesn't need to make me that angry. So,
So, why is it necessary to set boundaries after forgiving somebody?
okay, well, definitely. Again, like we said before, we teach others how to treat us, right?
Hmm.
So you need to set those boundaries so that you're comfortable. If the way that someone else is behaving isn't working for you, you need to figure out what you can do to be able to, especially if it's someone you need to see every day. We need to set these boundaries in our lives. You need to communicate to them what has happened.
Right.
And you need to either learn how to walk away yourself or distance yourself if someone else is not applicable to what it is that you need. So you need
Right.
to then find a way to make those adjustments. And sometimes it's really just a matter of how you react or respond or decide not to react or respond in those situations. Sometimes you need to have someone intermediate. And if it's, a work situation,
Mhm.
or someone that you're constantly in contact with, sometimes you may need to just communicate to someone else that, hey, I'm having an issue with this.
Right.
I need some help, and I'm going to need to remove myself from this situation because it's not something that I'm able to deal with. And, I've made my feelings known, and, they're not accepting this.
Right.
So
It's like setting an expectation, right?
absolutely.
There's boundaries, expectations, and so to give people clear expectations on how you're accepting to be treated and
Hmm.
giving them clear boundaries. Then when they cross those boundaries, then other things need to be in
Yeah,
play,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you can set those boundaries yourself. You want to voice them out, but there are some times where you just need to, you need to get other people involved. And it's hardest, when it's someone that you have to deal with on a daily basis, when
Mhm.
it's, a coworker that you're in contact with constantly, or a family
Mhm.
member, or, just, that acquaintance that is just always there,
Right.
that you then have to deal with. And it's like, okay, well, you know what, when we're all here together, we'll behave this way, but when we're not all here together,
Hmm.
then, we're not having any like ties or connection or communication.
Right.
And it's important to set that and to not let people cross those boundaries, because if you set a boundary and you keep pulling it back,
Hmm.
they're just going to keep crossing that boundary
And I
every
know,
time.
like, know this, and this is just from experience of all the people that I deal with and everything. But if I have to, if you get upset that I'm setting a boundary, it is because you don't know what boundaries are,
Yeah.
right? And so if you knew what boundaries were, I wouldn't have to give you the expectation of the boundary. So,
Yeah, no,
and
that's really true. I think
and
some people too, like, they were never taught how to set boundaries. They've let everyone else in their life cross all the ones
mhm,
that they maybe tried to loosely set.
mhm,
And sometimes they just figure, well, listen, no one complies when I say that, this is what I want. So why should I do it for you?
yeah, and
And that
and
can
it
be difficult.
and it is really hard to get on the page when somebody struggles with boundaries. It's really
Yes,
hard to get
absolutely.
them on that page. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes when you're in a professional situation, you do have to get other people involved. And then know also on the big scale of things in a personal situation, if you've set boundaries and you've made it definitely clear that you don't want somebody to cross boundaries and you feel uncomfortable and everything, that's a whole nother discussion
Hmm.
where you need to get professionals involved
Yeah,
in,
absolutely.
right?
There's
So,
always, if things get to a certain point and you need help, you should reach out and definitely get help with learning how to set those
right,
boundaries so that you can forgive, move
right,
past,
right.
and move forward, and
Yes,
keep going.
yeah. It's hard to forgive when it's like when you're still in it,
It is. It
right?
becomes very difficult, and that's where, like, learning to set boundaries
Hmm.
really comes in handy. And if you're having trouble doing that on your own, then that is the time, like, you want to reach out for some professional help with that, because it can become very toxic, and then it's just a lot of emotional strain
Right.
on you, and then you're going to end up making yourself unwell,
Hmm.
and that's just not worth it. So
Right. And it's not healthy.
no,
Um,
absolutely not.
can you forgive someone and still choose to distance yourself from them? I love
Yeah, it's difficult, right?
that. Hmm.
Because you can forgive someone, you can even love someone who really kind of keeps hurting you,
Hmm.
and it can be difficult, but yes, it can be done. Like,
Yes.
you can forgive someone, and again, this forgiveness is for you.
Right.
You're letting it go. You're letting the anger go, you're letting the situation go, you're leaving the past
You
behind
don't
you.
even have to discuss with the other person that you're
No,
forgiving now.
you can forgive them, and then literally just kind of distance yourself from
Yes.
them and keep them out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
With some people that's very difficult to do.
Yes.
But there are times where you're just like, you know what? This isn't working. We can't be around each other. This is not healthy. And that's it. Like you can walk away from it, but you can forgive, and you can forgive yourself for anything that you feel like you contributed to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing. There are a lot of times that's the only way to forgive someone and to move past it
Mm-hmm.
and to grow is just to distance yourself from them.
Right. I think this is also really a great piece of self-care, right? To be
Absolutely.
able to forgive, forgive situations, forgive circumstances, forgive a person,
Mhm.
right? Forgive yourself, and be able to grow from the experience of all of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what a great piece of self-care for people. Um, what role does communication play in setting boundaries?
Well, of course. So, I mean, if you're going to set boundaries, it's definitely helpful to let someone else know what's going on. And even if it's only when something's happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, something goes down and you're like, you know what? I'm not comfortable with this. This is how we need to proceed. And that's it. Because you can't expect someone to know what you want to do unless you tell them.
Right.
And if that's not working, then you just, again, communicate that you will be distancing yourself from them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they need to get something from you, you can give them other ways to, like, kind of go through someone else to get to,
Yeah.
to get to you. But it's definitely, you want to communicate what your needs are. And then again, if someone can't comply with that, uh, then you need to distance yourself. And if that doesn't work, then of course, like there's
Right.
always, steps that need to be taken on a more professional level. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. You need to communicate that to
Right.
the other person, to anyone else involved
Yeah.
in what's going on, depending on, what the situation is. Like if it's a work situation, of course, like you want to inform like bosses, management, HR,
Yeah.
depending. Or even just, their supervisor, your supervisor,
Mm-hmm.
just so that you've got that level of like protection and distance. And if it's someone within the family, um, you can talk to them. If you can't talk to them, again, like seeking like outside help or professional help
Yeah.
definitely can be beneficial in that sense. And as well as communicating that, as you're communicating this, I think you're connecting to yourself and what your needs are.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
can be very helpful and very therapeutic for you in that process to really understand what it is that you're feeling and to just kind of validate your own needs to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I know personally, I've told people, I forgive you, but I will not forget this situation. Like this situation is a little bit more drastic than it cannot be a forgotten situation.
right.
So you and I from here on out are no longer in a relationship of any kind, but I do forgive you, you
Hmm.
know, because some people will continue that push because
Hmm.
they want to be forgiven,
Right.
and they want you to be the one now to make it okay when you are the victim
Yes.
of the situation. And so sometimes we said earlier on in the conversation, you don't even have to tell them. But if they're pushing,
It's
just be
true.
like, you know what? I forgive you. We're moving on. But you and I are not, we're not proceeding the way we
No,
were.
absolutely. And you can even let people know, listen, there's going to need to be a lot of time
Hmm.
and a lot of space and a lot of change
Hmm.
on your I told you what I need. So
Yeah.
you can either comply with this and work towards it or not. And,
Yeah.
but there's going to be like, I need time to heal here. There needs to be
Yes.
a lot of time and space and just distance between us before that
Right.
can ever happen. And, and that's it. And sometimes you just have to put that on there for your
Yeah.
own peace of mind.
Totally. How can forgiveness impact your physical health?
All right. So by not forgiving, when we're angry, when we are
Hmm.
stressed, when we are all that, again, it's going to take a toll on us mentally and physically.
Hmm.
It increases tension. which then affects us again. Like the tension and the stress will affect us physically and mentally, and it can
Right.
lead to things like high blood pressure,
Hmm.
and it just can promote such unhealthy habits. So when you forgive, again, it is for you. It's so that you can move forward, so that you
Yeah.
can move past, so that you can be mentally clear,
Hmm.
and so that you can release that stress and to find ways to just deal with things in your life in a healthy manner.
Right.
So that forgiveness again, and I can't stress this enough, the forgiveness is for you more than it is for the other person. Well, because there's always the argument, well, they don't deserve to be forgiven, right? But
Yeah.
you deserve to not be angry,
Yeah.
right? So who deserves it more? Yes, you were wronged. You win, hands down. What they did could be terrible,
Hmm.
but the forgiveness is for you. And
Yeah.
again, you don't have to condone their behavior.
Right.
You don't have to continue to have a relationship with them.
Hmm.
That the forgiveness really is letting go of that anger. It's letting go of that stress. It's
Right.
letting go of that need for them to pay for what they did to you.
Right.
Because that will just keep playing in your mind and it stays within your body and it causes physical pain. It can
Yeah.
causes mental anguish and it can cause your body to become sick.
Yeah. It's all disease, you know.
Yeah.
It's when you are just so like whatever you're permeating out, right?
Mhm.
With anger or sadness or hate, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever you are feeling that you don't want to forgive, the fact of the matter is letting go of that is so much more important than
Absolutely.
the other person, you know, the other person anything. You know, you having the forgiveness, you having the peace, you having
Yeah.
the ease is more important than all of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the forgiveness is for the forgiver.
Yeah. And then why is forgiveness considered a process rather than a one-time event?
Well, I mean, learning to forgive again. I don't I don't know about you. I can hold a grudge like it's nobody's business. So this was
Really?
a yeah,
So
no, I
weird.
know. And the reason, one of the reasons for writing this and thinking about this is because I had to learn how to do it.
Hmm.
I spent so much time being angry about, things that happened to me and this could have been different if that just
Right.
happened. And a big part of my forgiveness too was learning to forgive myself. I have always been very hard on myself. I always want to, get things as perfect as they possibly can be. I think, just I was always very responsible, always in charge of, watch my brother and sister, take care of this person, do that. And it was just always so important for me to like do it all right.
Hmm.
And because everyone expected that from me after a while,
Right.
I started to expect this crazy high level of perfection from myself. But then I thought, well, if I have to do this, everyone else should too.
Yeah.
And then I would really get mad because, okay, well, why am I expected to have this like, high level of just everything? Like everything I do needs to reach this high level and no
Right.
one else has to do this. And I'm getting very, very off topic. I'm
You're
being a little
good.
tangential, getting a little tangential here. But it becomes a process because you kind of need to learn how to do it, to let it go,
Mhm.
um, to free yourself from the whole thing. And with the setting boundaries and seeing how other people respond to what you're putting out there, you need to give those things time. You need to give yourself time to get over what happened. You
Mhm.
need to give the other person time to make adjustments if you are going to like have this continued relationship.
Right.
So if you want to work on that and you want like the stronger relationships and to build trust back and all of that, it needs to be a process and it's a two-way street.
Mhm.
So cuz none of this is perfect. We're all
Right.
going to do things that we want to be forgiven for.
Right.
So when we can learn to forgive ourselves and to forgive others, it then becomes, a lot easier when someone sees your compassion
Mhm.
I think it's a lot easier then to like emulate and to kind of give back when they know that your compassion is there and that you're forgiving and that you'll be there for them
Mm-hmm.
in the same way. So I think that that's why, it becomes that process because we have relationships in our lives. And if we want to further those relationships, we need to be willing to put the time in and to work on that.
Me and my husband just had a conversation that everybody is trying to do their best, whatever that looks like. And the reality is, even shitty people are trying their best. And
Well,
them being shitty people sometimes is their best.
Well, absolutely. And you can't always, you don't know. You don't know the situation someone came out of,
Exactly.
right? Like, and
Exactly.
you always hear like hurt people.
Yes.
Because
Totally.
you don't like everyone's life is very different, right? And your inner world kind of reflects what happens outside of you.
Yes.
So when you see things repeatedly, that kind of becomes your natural environment. It becomes what's normal to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes your reality.
Yeah.
And that is very different for everyone. Like everyone's reality looks a lot different. What I see and how I react to things can be very different from how you see and react to things, which is not true at all because we see and react to things very similarly. But there's a lot of other people out there who don't see things the way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Weird, right?
Well, I do. I think you and I react completely differently to things.
So but we can see a lot of the same.
But I think we have kind of the same moral compass, right? And so
that's a good way to put it.
And I think, but I think that's like
the
reality. Like me and my husband are the same way. We have the same moral compass, but the way I react and the way he reacts are totally different. And so the whole thing is like knowing that if you have bad days, so does somebody else.
Someone else, right?
And things like that. And it goes back to, just an empathy piece. But, some things are little and some things happen and the other person doesn't even know that they were being that way. And
absolutely.
When we talk about this right here, how lovely would it be if you could easily forgive anybody for the little thing that they did and you just say to them, hey, I didn't really like that. Here's the boundary, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, sorry, didn't know.
Right. Because when we all make mistakes, right? And we all want to
lovely.
Absolutely, we all want to feel that like we're safe to make those little mistakes, and to carry on, and oh, sorry, like that crossed a boundary. I didn't realize,
totally
didn't mean to, wasn't. So we all have those, but again, there are times where you really have to set those like hard boundaries. You may have to get other people involved. You may need to separate yourself from certain situations and just know that you're allowed to do that.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
That's the important thing.
So as we wrap up this discussion today, the power of forgiveness, healing, and setting boundaries, it's important to remember that forgiveness is not just about releasing the other from the burden of their mistakes.
Right. No.
It is about freeing ourselves from the weight of the past, from what actually just happened or continues to happen. Allow ourselves some peace and ensure ourselves better relationships by building those boundaries, making people respect you, respecting others, respecting you. It helps us with emotional freedom, personal growth, and healthier conditions are worth every step. Right? So every step that you take towards this, it's worth it. You are worth it.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for joining us today, and may you continue to find healing and strength in your own journey of forgiveness. Until next time.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media for more updates. See you next time.